Hello everyone. The second try, my first try. I'm actually in Colorado and was trying to use my iPad as a better way of filming, but it stopped about a minute in, so we're going to try this again. This is our this last full week, and then the following week we will finish up. So, wanted to get with you this week and do a last video. For the most part, I may do one more at the very end, but anyway, the last full week video. This week you'll do chapter 15, which is transitioning to adulthood. You'll need to read that, look at the PowerPoint, and also complete the quiz and then the discussion boards. Yeah, there are two discussion boards for this week, which I'll explain here in a little bit. I like to think about this chapter as the capstone to this whole book. It's on transitioning, which if you're in the high school area, this is the primary piece of the IEP. I like to think the IEP changes a bit in the upper middle school, high school range to where it changes course and becomes more student focused from the student perspective, looking at transitioning to life after high school. Which is a primary key as to my role as a transition coordinator for Warrensburg for the last several years that I worked there. Um, so this is your final time that you get to help the student to succeed before they're on their own. So they to be a productive part of society, we need to make sure and give them the tools needed to do so. Whether this means they go full-time work after high school, or whether this means they go to secondary posts to work on college or trade skills, something like that nature. So there's many options. So make sure as you're reading this chapter, think about how it pertains to you. One of the things I want to get to also is, if you're not a high school or middle school range teacher, or that's not what you're going into, you're looking at more elementary, early ed. You still need to think about this. Try to make sure and bring in. There were many times that before I went to teaching, when I was working in retail and management, that I would come into a fourth and fifth grade building, and they would have a career fair where they would bring in different people from the community, whether it be retail, firemen, policemen, many other jobs were brought in to just discuss with students what they do so that they can get a better perspective of what if they were looking at going into that field. But what goes along with that is many times right now, 16 is the range that you have to bring the students in the state of Missouri. But there are many people in transition, whether it be school or agencies and such, that believe that, excuse me, dogs behind me. But anyway, they would like for it to start early at 14, which is what I really would like for it to eventually do. Um, but that's why it's really critical for everybody to understand what transitioning is. Even if you're an elementary teacher, bring it in maybe once a month. Bring in somebody to talk about their career to get the kids engaged. Even if it's a parent, that's a great time to do some of these things. So anyway, I wanted to add that to what we were talking about. Let me check my notes. Last week's items. Doing this on Monday morning, so hopefully I'll have this posted by Monday afternoon. Most of you completed uh, the quizzes that we had, and the discussion boards, but there were a few that didn't complete these. So please don't slow down. You've only got a week or two left. Some of the overall grades did go down, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. So keep on it. This week there's only one quiz, so get on there, read it. As far as the chapter, read it early. By Wednesday night, start getting your posts completed so that I can see you're participating. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, participate 2 or 3 of those days so that you get for your full participation points and get that grade back up. As far as quizzes, chapter 13, the average was an 8. And chapter 14, a little bit more than an 8, but pretty much right there. So it went down a little bit, not much. And that was affected by a few quizzes that didn't get done. So overall, That's where he stood. And then the class as a whole, the average went down a little bit. It's right there at an 80%. So there were a few students now that have gone down below where they were at. So look at that, kind of get things going, and get that completed. I did send a few emails out on the observation reports that a few students left out sections. And if you left out an entire section, I did give you an opportunity to get that updated. Make sure and read those directions carefully, though. I do have specific instructions on how to add these items so that I can have it and grade it fairly easy and make sure that I'm being fair with that. Some of you have already started putting those observation grades in, so if you haven't already seen it, go in there and look at what I wrote. I did write some comments. This one here I wasn't able to do on PDF because of the trip and travel. I just printed them out before I left and then graded them throughout my vacation time. So those that did get emails, you only have 3 days to get that added, and so get that completed quickly. There were some that I sent, one or two I sent on Friday, and then there were a couple that I sent on Saturday, so they will be due very quickly. If they are not turned in by that due date, then you will get the grade that you had, and that'll be it. We'll go from there. I also wanted to add some thoughts that I have about these. Overall, the observation reports were well done. I feel like many of you learned what we wanted you to learn in this observation, to learn more about teaching, learn more about what happens in the classroom, and get a better perspective of what it's like being a teacher. I do have some comments. Some of you, I'm sorry, I'm reading off my iPhone instead of my iPad, but let's see here. Many of you mentioned how the teacher was like a friend, to these students, and kind of got that. And some of you, where the teacher wasn't, made a comment that you would like to be, that you felt you would like to be a friend to your students, and that way they could trust you. Well, I want to give you some some advice. You're looking at the teacher at the end of a full year, whether it was their first year of teaching or many years of teaching. This was after a year of teaching, and some of these students knew them for that year. Some of these students are just seeing them for the first time. But you have to set up your expectations for these students, what their responsibilities are, and set up your rules. This is primary to you having a great, successful year for these students. This means being firm and strict and in the classroom. It means that you have to have very strong classroom management skills. I know that my first year of teaching, I was a retail manager for several years before teaching, and my first year of teaching, all I had over that summer beforehand, I took 4 different classes, and there was one of these classes that if I hadn't have taken, I doubt that I would have had as great of a year, and who knows, I might not be here today if not. And that class was classroom management. It helped me in that classroom. These kids, depending on who you're at, where you're at, it doesn't matter if it's elementary, middle school, or high school, you have to have good classroom management skills. If you don't, these kids will, I hate the term, eat you alive. They will take control of that classroom. There were there were some students that discussed some scenarios in the classroom that they felt the students did take control. And that means that the classroom management skills of that teacher may have been lax at that moment in time. But my first year of teaching, I taught in a self-contained classroom with students that had behavioral disabilities, and there would not have been learning going on in that classroom. In fact, probably your first week or two or your first month is going to be a lot of going over what your expectations are, repeating what they are needing to do, making sure they have a routine. Once you have a routine, these students will start to learn, they will start to understand what you want from them, and then they will be much more teachable for this to happen. So as much as you want to be your friend or their friend, and as much as you want them to trust you, you need to go about it by setting up good classroom management skills first. The trust then will come from you sticking to that and not wavering from that and making sure and treating everybody the same. I'm getting some more sun. I'm going to change. Let's see where I need to go here. Maybe right here. Sorry, the sun is coming up right here. Right now it's about 7:20, so it's starting to come up. So trying to watch the screen a little bit. But you must have good classroom management skills. Once they gain your trust, it's after you being fair and repeating what you've done and not changing what you're doing as far as your classroom management skills. Um, and it was very, very rough the first few weeks for me in the classroom, getting these students to figure out the routine and the expectations that I wanted. But once I got that completed, then we were able to do quite a bit of work and learning. Let me see here. And you want them to understand that you're the teacher, they're the student, and this is where the classroom management comes in very well. And once you get that down, then the students will be able to better understand that. Um, and I want you to understand, though, even the best of teachers will have bad days in the classroom where things don't happen the way they want, where the lesson doesn't go as they planned. So you need to watch that and see what you can do. I'm going to kind of do some more moving here. The sun is definitely moving a little bit. Let's see how this looks. Okay, I think I'm getting the sun, but I think you can see me a lot better. So let's go ahead and go through here. Okay, let me go back into here. See here where I need to go here. Sorry, the air conditioner went on in the house, so hopefully you can still see me and listen to me quite well. Let me get that. There we go. Let's see here. Let's see here. Another area I want to discuss, it is a learning process. You will not, we can't teach you everything. Everything that we're teaching you in college is basically from the book and doing things like that. So the book doesn't tell you everything. So we'll have to watch that a little bit. Oh, you're giving me a little bit of shade, are you?
Yeah. Stand and watch a man suffer like that. Make sure there's some cramps.
Well, thank you. I have an assistant here, my sister-in-law, that's getting the shade up for me. I think they had trouble yesterday doing that too. That'll work. That helps quite a bit. Thank you, Jerry. But we can teach you the book, but until you get in the classroom, you're not going to understand and be able to see everything that a student will give you. And some of the things I heard in there was, why one person with a disability can't be taught the same as another. Well, just like anything else. Think about your childhood. Think about the classes you've been in. Your teachers didn't teach you the same way they did every other student. Now, their expectations may have been similar, but they didn't teach everybody the same. Just like if you have siblings, I doubt that your parents parented each of you, their children, in the same way. I know my two kids are completely different. My son, my firstborn, we taught, we learned, we taught, but we definitely do not have the same teaching or parenting style. Teaching style, they're pretty similar with my daughter. So just because a student has autism, and you had Jimmy last year and in years past, and you taught him this way, that doesn't mean that Rick, who also has autism, is going to be able to be taught the same way. They are completely different people, And so just because you have students that have ADHD or autism or whatever it may be, a learning disability, they are not going to be able to be taught in always the same way. Now there will be some similarities that you can start with, but you're going to learn as you teach that child throughout that year. You're going to learn different strategies that help with that student. So yeah, it is going to be a complete learning experience the rest of your life. You cannot stop learning. Sorry about the dog. Somebody's walking behind me. So anyway, let's go on to this week. This week you're going to be going over chapter 15. You'll have discussion board over the chapter, the quiz, and then you'll finish up on your DI collection. I still have a few that have not emailed me. I will try to look through this morning still and email those again, but I emailed about a week or two ago and still haven't heard back from everybody. You are to be doing this on a weekly basis, so your participation in this report is going to be bearing on me being able to see that you've been doing this over the last few weeks. So make sure you're giving me, if you are on Pinterest, then go ahead and give me your username that you're using, because just a name, if I put in a name, it's going to have 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6 different people with that same name. So go ahead and continue with that. Sorry, not my dog. So see, and so that DI collection will be due the end of this week. I know you have the following week, but it's due the end of this week on Sunday night. You'll need to have that top 10. So make sure and look at the rubric. If you have questions, get with me, and I will try to assist you on that. The other item you'll have is the discussion board, basically just telling me that you've completed the evaluation report. I do take those very seriously. I learn from them. And each year there's something different that a student will mention that I will, okay, let's try that next year. Just like you will do when you're teaching. You will have things that you will do that won't work and that students don't like, and next year you'll redo that. Well, this is my way. On an online class, I don't get to see you face to face and hear what you may have, and not all of you will email the teacher like I've asked. And so this is your chance. I don't have any clue as to who you are when you write down and evaluate me. All I will be able to do is get on my central, and it will tell me how many students have filled out the evaluation report, and it will give me an opportunity to tell the computer to email students that haven't completed the evaluation report. So go ahead and get those completed by the 30th. That's Sunday night also, and then get on discussion board and just tell me you've completed it. I will try to get on Thursday and have the computer email anybody that has not completed that so that I can give you another opportunity. Let's see here. And then the only assignment that final week, which isn't really a week, it's only like 3 or 4 days, is your philosophy paper, your final paper for me. It just needs to be 1 page, single spaced, and you'll need to go through and follow the directions on that rubric. Look at the prologue, look at the post-log, and make sure you can kind of see everything, and go from there. So make sure you get that completed, but you can start on that since this is only a 1 week, 1 chapter week. I would probably get started on that around Thursday, if not Wednesday, and that way you can get the draft done and then get that submitted. Let's see, that's by the 2nd. So again, this week you've got the quiz, you've got the 2 discussion boards, and then you get started on your philosophy paper. And here's a little bit more on that philosophy paper. You'll need to read the prologue and postscript from your text. It's pages 2 and 3, and then pages 601 and 602. Then it's a 1-page paper, single-spaced, outlining your special education philosophy. Make sure you incorporate concepts learned from this course and the prologue and postscript. I'll be looking for those. Then follow the rubric. This is your philosophy. It's worth 50 points, and I'll be looking for items learned from the course. And then you'll be done. So anyway, good items. I want to say, keep up the good work. Many of you are doing well and submitted the observation report and did well on it, and are responding to me in the emails and doing very well. So take a little break for some of you that can. If you're a little behind, then you need to keep up getting that done. Make sure and email me if you're having any problems. That's the only way that I can see what you're needing to do. So, last week you had a 2-chapter week, and before that you had your observation report. So I think it's, time well earned that, later on this week, take some time out and get things done. The other thing I wanted to mention, let's see, it was in my head. Well, I can't think about it at the moment. So if I think about it later on after I get done with this video, then I will go ahead and post it online. But it's been great working with you over the last few weeks. You're down to the last couple weeks, so keep up the good work. And I look forward to reading some of your discussion boards later on this week. We'll talk to you later. And bye-bye.